Hello again, Year 8. Next lesson from me is evolution action. We've got to do now, first of all, there's 5 questions. We've got the meanings. You have to remember the word. Some of them are from this term, some of them are revision. Pause the PowerPoint here while you do it, maximum 5 minutes. Then you'll be able to check the answers from the next slide by carrying on playing. And here are the answers. How many did you get right? Well done if it was all 6. If not, make sure you know the words that you didn't know already. Groovy Science Guide now. Charles Darwin used to be on the £10 note, pretty famous. Main facts on him: he lived in the 1800s. He published a very well-known book called On the Origin of Species. His ideas were based on a big voyage he did, travelling around the world on a boat called the Beagle, but his ideas disagreed with what it said in the Bible, so he became very unpopular. Here's some evidence for evolution to back up Darwin's ideas. Number 1, fossils. You know what these are. They're the remains of dead animals where minerals fit into gaps in the bones. It's not actually the bones, it's minerals in the gaps, in the bones that get squashed in the rocks and leave an impression that can be found later. Could be animals, can be plants. Also, you can know about genetics and inherited evolution. We've already looked at that a little bit. Inherited traits, but remember when we rolled our tongues? And antibiotics. We'll find out more about this as we go along. And also even embryology, how the young of different species look as they're developing before they are born. This is all evidence. You need to make notes on these as you go along. You'll need them later on. You will start after this to get some questions coming up in red. You need to answer those as you go along as well. Remember, if you want to make notes or answer a question, just pause the PowerPoint while you're running it, make the notes, and you can run it again, just like a DVD or on your TV. Now, here's a very well-known study, evidence for evolution. It's the peppered moth. If you look carefully on the left-hand side, there are 2 different forms of the peppered moth. One is really dark, one is really light. Both of them are a bit tricky to see on the bark of trees, which is the whole idea of their design, because if they're easy to see, they'd all get eaten. They wouldn't have any young. Change has been seen in these moths over years. Back before there were lots of factories, in the early 1800s, the light form was the main form because most tree trunks were quite light. It was very well camouflaged. These ones survived to breed and had mainly light offspring. Your question here that you need to answer in your book in a sentence: why were there still some dark offspring? Remember, you can pause the video to do this answer. You don't have to try and remember the questions. Moving on, once factories started to produce sooty smoke, you've seen the smoke that sort of comes off a bonfire or a barbecue in your garden. Then that built up onto the tree trunks and made the tree trunks look darker than they really were. At this point in time, the darker form was better camouflaged. Remember, camouflage is a word meaning that something is disguised or hidden from other animals. It's not easily spotted, therefore it's not easily hunted or eaten, and it's protected. If it's camouflaged, it will survive longer, it's more likely to produce offspring. Would there still have been some lighter offspring, do you think? Explain your answer. So not just a yes or no, a reason why, please, Year 8. Recent changes still been seen. Pollution has reduced. Tree trunks are less sooty. What do you think is observed by scientists now? I haven't given you the answer. You have to work it out using the previous information. If you're not sure, you can always go backwards in the presentation to check for yourself. And scientists are able to observe these changes because although many generations of a population are involved, generation for people is much longer than a moth. So a person studying them for 40 years, which would be their whole scientific career or most of it, would actually be able to see 40 generations of moths in their own one lifetime. Moving on, bacteria. We know about these from when we learned about disease. There's a little bit of information here to remind you about what antibiotics are. Blue link is a link to a video. If you've got a little problem playing this from the DVD, the presentation on YouTube, then you can just copy it into your browser, pause the presentation and watch it there. Question for you in red again, what mechanism allowed the appearance of resistant bacteria? Another question, linking things together. We're linking our current study of inheritance and evolution and our previous study of disease. This is how science works. Nothing is on its own, they're all linked together. Now we've got a question. Don't panic. There's help here for you. The question is, how might polar bears have evolved to have white fur? Write the question in your book. Remember to pause the presentation at this time to have a look at all the information on this page. You've got an example here involving cactuses to help you. Tells you the question they've answered there is how a cactus evolved to have spikes. First of all, there was variation in cactus leaves. Some leaves were spikier than others. Second point, spikier leaves were an advantage as they protected against herbivores. Remember, that's animals that eat plants. Plants with spiky leaves survived and bred. More offspring with spiky leaves were born. Remember, most young will have the dominant trait inherited from their parents through their DNA. Because more offspring with spiky leaves were born, over many generations, all cacti ended up with spikes. And down the bottom in red, there's some key words to include in your answer. Eventually, variation, whiter, offspring, survived, reproduced. These are not in the right order. The information you need to include will be very similar to between polar bears and cacti, but obviously you're talking about fur, not spikes. The order is important here, to think carefully. Pause the presentation at this point while you write your answer. Have a really good go. Check you've used all those words, and then you can start the presentation up again to check. Have a look at my answer. Here is a sample answer. The vocabulary we're targeted to use is in red. Some of the words have been used more than once. You don't have to have used them more than once, but at least once. The order is important. The exact wording isn't. So please make sure that you've got things in the right order here. Now, artificial selection is when you, as people, breed a species to get a desired result. And here are some lovely dogs. I'm sure you like this. It's a very cute picture. They're not my dogs before you email in. Sorry, I don't have 4 dogs at home. Make some notes on here again. They've been bred using artificial selection, so we've got lots of different variations in dogs. We've got some taller, smaller, bigger, larger. None of them are going to growl and hunt people like wolves though. The same sort of process is used to produce crops and flowers. You've got a challenge here. This is the second part of your work for this week. You've got to go further. You've got to find at least 5 new facts about one of the things in this list. So that's 5 new facts. So if you go for Charles Darwin, please don't copy the facts that were at the start of this PowerPoint. You've got 2 people, Charles Darwin and Gregor Mendel. You've then got 3 times occasions that artificial evolution is used. And don't forget, at the end, we always review our objectives. Here we go. And I've included a song for you. It's been a while since we've had a new song. Thought I'd include one. Tell me what you think. If you like it, great. I'll look for some more. If you don't, well, never mind. You don't have to sing it. You can always stop the video. Take care. Stay safe. See you soon.